factory edge.
All right, so what do you typically do when you're going to start with the
project?
When you're going to first start working on the edge, what do you, I noticed you there with the marker. What are you going to do there?
Well, I don't know how this knife has been sharpened in the past or what these angles are, so the marker is just an easy tool to help me visualize how the stones are going to hit the edge, and then I can make adjustments out to match the angle that's exactly on this knife. So I'm going to just take the marker straight down onto the edge like this and slide it along the blade. And you can see that it's just coloring in those bevels for me.
Yes.
It's not getting on the rest of the blade. And then I've got a fine stone on here already, so I'll walk this out to say 20 degrees to start. And I'll touch it just a little bit. I'll do it on this side too so you can see.
Okay.
So I'm getting the marker off of the shoulder here, but it's not coming all the way up to the edge.
Okay.
So that's telling me that the angle's in too tight and I need to walk it out a little bit to make it a little bit wider. So if I move this out, say 2 degrees, and I go again, you can see that the marker is getting removed even closer to the edge. So now I'll come out just a couple more degrees, test again, and I'm almost there at 24 degrees.
Okay.
So that's how I can find my angle really quick and easy with a marker. And then I'll write that down in my logbook that this blade was sharpened at 24 degrees. I used the top holes in the depth stop, and then I can repeat that every time I sharpen this knife again.
Oh wow, okay.
So it makes it really fast and easy for touch-ups. All right, so what I'm finding is that on this side, my right-hand side, the angle is much lower. It's down here around 16 degrees, and that's where all the marker's coming off. And then if I look at the other side, my left-hand side, we're all the way out here at 24 degrees. And most of the time when I'm at shows and I show somebody that, they look like they're pretty sad about it. Like, oh, my knife, there's a problem. I'm like, no, that's just factory edge. They're all like that. There's always variation. This is a little bit more extreme from 16 to 24, but we often see 4, 5, 6 degrees difference between sides. So that's pretty normal. And then people ask me, well, what should I do about that? Is it a problem? And I say, no, we can approach it a couple different ways. We can match each side and leave it exactly the way it is, 16 and 24, or I can split the difference and pick something in the middle that makes sense, that's symmetrical on both sides, and that you can repeat easily in the future. So for this knife, what do you think? Making it 20 degrees on each side? And
I think that'd be good. I mean, a nice even edge on, a nice even bevel on both sides would definitely increase the performance on this blade, and it's going to feel a lot sharper than it is right now, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And is this kind of an EDC type of everyday carry knife for you?
It is. It is. This is going to be a worker. One of the things, this was actually customized. This was a production knife that was sold exclusively through a company named EDC Gear House, and then what they did was they actually did some of the custom work on it. But this is a factory edge. I told them I didn't want anything done to the blade itself because I did want to use it.
Okay.
So I'm glad you actually pointed that out. I would have never known about the edges being the way they were if I didn't have something like this to be able to go out and work on a knife and actually maintain it. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
You get to see it in action now. Huh?
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bust out some coarser stones, because we're going to do a little bit of reprofiling work to get this blade in shape and symmetrical on both sides. We're going to do a little bit of reprofiling now, and I've slipped on these 100, 200 grit diamond stones, which are pretty aggressive, and they're going to just help me make sure that this blade is symmetrical from side to side. So I'm going to be taking a little bit of extra metal and then centering the bevel right down the center line of the stock. And so the first thing I'm going to do is color in the bevel again with the marker, and that's going to help me guide my efforts, so I know which side to work on and how much work to do.
Okay.
And so, like back on this side, I know I'm only at the very edge here, so this is where I'm going to have to do most of the work to get that bevel down to a 20-degree angle out from a 24.
24, okay.
So I'm just going to work on this. Again, really light pressure. I'm not pushing hard on this. I don't need to grind away at it. These diamonds are plenty aggressive.
Now I see like there's some material that's coming off. Is that like the diamond? Is that the metal that's coming off?
That's a great question too. That's a mix of diamond particles that are getting knocked off the stones, and also metal filings that are coming off, just peeling off little bits of metal as I go. And if you come over here and look, you can see that this line, which was just tiny white, is now getting bigger and bigger.
I can see
so
that.
As I work, I'm just working until that marker is going to be gone. And again, I'm just going real light. I'm not working hard. The nice thing about this process is it's a one-time deal. Like once you reprofile your blade, you don't have to do it again.
Yeah, but it looks like with a system like this that you're able to go ahead and work on each side individually and not have to flip it around or do anything crazy to be able to get it, you know, positioned just right to work on it again. It seems like it'll take the work out of what used to be, you know, a pretty tedious task.
Yeah, I think if you were trying to reprofile a knife like this on a stone, that's a half a day deal. You know, you can be at it all day working on it, trying to get it right. But for this, with a guided system where everything is super efficient, every motion I make is very efficient, so it just goes really fast because every stroke's the same. All right, so I've got all the marker off of this side, and now I'm going to work on this side. And we're going to just observe where the marker's coming off. So it's just down here at the shoulder, and I just have to work until I'm all the way to the edge and all that black is removed.
Okay.
All right, so I've got all the marker off from both sides of the blade. So I'm pretty confident that I've got it reprofiled just right, but I'm not 100% because I don't have, you know, microscopes up here. I can just see what I can see, and I can't tell for sure if I really came to the very edge. But there's a way I can prove it to myself. Do my bevels actually meet? And that's by drawing a burr from one side of the metal over the edge, and then I can feel that burr, and that will inform me that my bevel comes to the edge. Okay. So I've been working on this side here with my left hand, and I can feel for that burr on this side here.
So what you're doing is you're basically feeling for the steel that has actually been pushed over from one side onto the other, and actually feeling to see if you can kind of feel for that steel on that side.
Exactly, because metal's pretty neat. You know, it's got ductility. It means you can pull it and stretch it, and that's what we're doing in essence, is stretching it over the edge, and I can feel that with my fingernail really well. So I've got a good burr on this side, and I'm very confident that this bevel comes to the edge. I'm just going to do a few strokes on this side and see if I can push the burr back the other way. And if I've done that, then we've done the hardest thing that you have to do in sharpening, which is making sure those bevels meet at a finite point or a nice apex. That's where people most often go wrong in sharpening, is failing to get to that point of making those two planes meet at an apex. So now I've got a great burr on this side, and that's the hard work done. From here, we just go back to alternating strokes to refine that edge to whatever level we want to take it. And then I can switch. Those are my 200 grit stones that I started with. I'll go ahead and switch to my 400 and 600 grit combo. And I'm just making light, easy strokes, not pressing hard, always alternating from side to side. I'm going to switch to my 600 grit.
You can actually hear the sound of the grit kind of smoothing out as you kind of go up to a higher like stone from the 200 to the 600 to the 1000. You kind of hear the difference too. Yeah.
You definitely do, and you feel it in your hands too. So that's part of how you know when it's time to switch stones is when you're not getting any more resistance from that stone anymore. It's time to go ahead and switch up to the next one. And I'll put on my 800 and 1000 grit. Switch to my 1000s. That's already crazy sharp.
Oh yeah, no, I can see it. And in a few minutes, I mean, it went from a wonky, I mean, from 16 on one, 16 degrees on one side, 24 degrees on another. That's completely reprofiling the edge to something that's a little bit more consistent and usable for EDC at 20 degrees. And I mean, just over a few minutes. That's insane.
And much easier to maintain going forward too. It'll just be a breeze to throw it back in, set it at 20, make a couple strokes, and if you've dulled it a little bit, you're right back where you were before. So I'm onto my 1500 grit stones.
Now, while you're doing this, I do have a question with regards to maintenance of the stones.
Yeah.
Say, you've actually been using, your stones to kind of clean your reprofile your knives, sharpen your knives, and then maintain them using the lapping stones. What do you typically use to maintain them and get the most out of them? Because obviously you want to keep them as clean as possible, correct?
honestly, I'm pretty bad about being lazy, but yes, you're right. And they get covered in metal filings, and I can wipe my fingers like that.
Wow.
So those will clog up the spaces in between the stones eventually.
Look at this, guys. So it's there.
And it's a super fine powder. It's similar particle size to the diamonds themselves, so about 10 microns or so. But anyway, to clean these up, I just take them to the kitchen sink and I take a dish brush, like a nylon dish brush with some Dawn and a little bit of water, and I just brush them off, and then I pat them dry and I leave them standing like that so they can air dry the rest of the way. And you just have to do that periodically is all you really have to do to maintain these things.
Okay.
And the lapping films will get black like that too. And if I take like a little paper towel and some rubbing alcohol that I've got in a spray bottle, you'll see I can take all that off and they're almost good as new
that's
again.
it, yeah.
So that's pretty much all you have to do on the lapping films. Eventually when you wear through, you'll see bald spots and it's time to change your films out. But you can restore them really good just doing that.
And that's rubbing alcohol?
That's just rubbing alcohol, yeah. It's like isopropanol rubbing alcohol.
Okay.
I'll do this one here while we're talking about it.
Yeah, no. But that's good to know. I mean, even for people that have, the existing system, I'm pretty sure they want to know, how the man cleans his stuff when he chooses to clean his stuff. I won't tell anybody how often you do it, but I do see that you cleaned it now. So.
Well, now that we're on the lapping films, we can start to look at this edge and how it's just going to come to life here with a really beautiful polish.
Yeah, I can see it already.
And that's just crazy sharp. I can really feel it biting into my thumbnail there. So that's your knife totally reprofiled and taken to a really nice polish. And then to take it out, all I have to do is grab a hold of the blade and then just lift this lever up and out it comes. And that's everything involved in it.
Clay, thank you so much. This is, look at the edge on that thing, man. That is serious. And aside from it being, a very, very sharp edge, it's a consistent edge now. Yeah. So you basically took something that was pretty off. It was pretty off. 8 degrees is pretty, it's significant. You had 16 on one, 24 on the other. Now it's a consistent 20. It's still a slicer by all means. And as you can see, it's wicked sharp now. So thank you so much for taking a moment and showing us the system and sharpening my knife.
Great.
Awesome.